Chapter 5. Long Night. The sun descended as if retreating from the dark, brooding clouds. Angelight remarked about the sunset, a beautiful sight to finish off a pleasant day's journey. Moldream, however, wished he shared her positivity. A potential storm front was massing, and it could be felt on the light, warm breeze. Many lights flickered into being throughout the ruined cityscape. The grey walls sheltered human life. "We have two options," Moldream said, his tone hushed. "We can either find somewhere safe to sleep, or we can keep moving. I recommend not stopping around here for long, and to go with the latter." "What makes you so scared?" Angelite said, her tone anxious. "You'll have to trust me," he uttered. "In this city, it isn't just monstrous legends we have to worry about." "We're both exhausted, though," she said, yawning suddenly. "I know, but we don't want to be here," he replied. "I'd rather keep going." "You're starting to scare me," she said, tightening her grip on her stave subconsciously. Moldream reached out and held her hand. He locked eyes with her. "We'll be fine, just follow my lead," he said, grinning reassuringly. Angelite agreed with a nod. The duo continued through the darkest parts of the forgotten, abyssal husks of buildings, some tall, some short, narrow, wide. Each a decrepit death trap, were one concrete beam or wall to be knocked or crumble at the wrong time. "Be light on your feet," he whispered. "Don't let go of my hand and we'll be all right." Shouting echoed from the distance, rising in chorus through the gloomy streets, while fires were set haphazardly in the alleyways. "Why so much fuss?" Angelite whispered. "Gangs fight each other here because they've got no other purpose," he said, trying to keep his voice low, watching his every step on the rubble as he led the way. "These gangs call themselves packs, breakaway groups who prey on the weak or each other. They will steal, mug, rape, or kill anyone if they can get away with it." "They sound worse than the Anunnaki," she stammered. "You know what, I agree, they are absolutely dangerous," he said, squeezing her hand. "You're safe with me, keep moving." Engines of archaic machines roared and whined, a choir of near-deafening noise as the packs began their nightly raids. They performed hit-and-run offensives, on wheeled or tracked contraptions, against each other's territories. Some drove huge trucks mounted with an array of ranged weaponry to slay their opponents for meager winnings. "I've never seen anything like this before," she whispered, watching a war truck speed past the ruin in which they hid. "There is no law, only chaos." "Yeah, this is a real desperate struggle to a lot of people," Moldream said, sighing. "Unfortunately, if you decide to live here, then you either adapt to be like them and die, or you just die. It's either or." "What's that other noise?" Angelite yelped. "Shit!" he blurted, tugging the priestess backward. The tribal and priestess retreated into the depths of the building and took refuge behind some marble pillars. Crouching, they peered around the column. One of the packs had stopped a mere 20 yards away on the broken road. Sitting on their bikes, they chatted idly, then yelled at the tops of their lungs after revving their whining engines. Moldream frowned. "Is everything all right?" she whispered. "Yeah, I'm not crushing you, am I?" "I'm fine," she mumbled. "Good," he whispered, watching the pack closely, trying to ascertain their motive for stopping there. He recognized the marking and colors of their rides. This particular pack came from a gang known as Ruthless. Given this gang's reputation as one of the most feared in the city, Moldream knew he would have no option but to fight if he and Angelite were discovered. Moldream knew that once a pack found somewhere to settle, they were likely to get off their bikes to scavenge for anything they deemed useful. It was not worth the risk of attempting to trade with them. These powerful men, clad in rusty iron plates, thick furs, and studded leather armor, were far from diplomatic. Deciding it was the only logical choice of action, Moldream reached slowly for his sword. Balancing the cumbersome weapon, he removed it carefully from the scabbard. At the last second, he fumbled his grip. He gasped as his arm gave way in his awkward pose. The blade's tip struck the pillar with an echoing clang just as the pack switched off their bikes and stopped bellowing. The tribal watched fearfully as the pack members dismounted. They wielded simple yet terribly effective weapons: glass-covered iron poles, iron chains, and custom-made stainless steel knives. The pack eyed the duo's hiding place in the darkness. They must have heard the sword drop. Rising slowly, Maldrim helped Angelite off the floor and quietly ushered her behind another marble pillar. "No matter what happens, just stay here and stay hidden," he whispered. "Don't come out, even if I'm in trouble." Angelite went to protest, but Maldrim prevented her by putting his index finger on her lips. He pulled his hood up over his head. If they escaped, he didn't want any witnesses to recognize his face. Maldrim stood ready to strike. Angelite watched him, her eyes glistening with fear. She gripped her stave and drew her own hood over her head. "Who's there?" shouted one of the burly men on approach. "I heard it," uttered another. "Sounded like the sound of an ambush." "I don't know why you guys always get so warmed up," another muttered. "It's just some loner, let's be fair. Not worth our bloody time." "We have a reputation to uphold, so shut your fucking mouth and keep looking," snarled the man in charge. "Come out and face us like a man, you little bitch. We won't hurt you too much. I just want to give you a little kneecapping." Angelite whispered her words of resonance, with her eyes shut tight, praying she would come to no harm. Maldrim stood motionless, holding his two-hander with arms aloft. He was ready. "Something tells me you're hiding in the shadows behind those pillars like a coward," the pack leader snorted. The war band slithered through the darkness. They surrounded the couple steadily, seeking them while making as much unnerving noise as possible, banging their weapons and roaring loudly. There was no escape. One of the pack was nearby, stepping gradually closer and closer. Maldrim risked one more whisper. "Whatever happens, Angelite, stay h." Unbeknownst to the man behind Maldrim's pillar, busily striking the stone columns with his iron pipe, creating a racket, he had struck Maldrim in the face. Blood burst from his nose. He reacted instinctively with a clumsy sweep of his two-hander. The surprised man had no chance against the lashing strike. His head was separated from his neck in an instant. In panic, the tribal stepped gracefully back into the darkness. Surprisingly, the other packers didn't notice the noise. Again, another packer strode closer, stopping just out of range for a safe strike. This man carried a flaming torch. "Shit, Leo's dead," his head's rolling on the floor. Battle cries ensued. "Find the bastard, it must be an assassin." In less than a breath, more torches were ignited, and the building was flooded with bright, wavering illumination, leaving few shadows in which to hide. "You don't think it's those two assassins, boss?" shouted another. "We'll find out, won't we?" the leader snorted. "No more games. Time to die, assholes. No one gets away with killing just one of us." Maldrim leapt around the pillar and took down the nearest packer with a mortal cleave down his spinal column in a vicious crunch. The man was mere flesh and bone, no creature of legend. The blade split its target effortlessly in twain from crown to crotch. Maldrim readied his weapon again. In killing the man, he had revealed himself to 6 more. Bellowing another war cry, they charged. Their offensive was swift and merciless, attacking Maldrim from all directions. The tribal reacted with a defensive flurry, but he knew he couldn't keep it up for long. Dodging, then parrying a blow, he dived through the mass of bodies and, spinning on his heels, clumsily swiped his blade at one unfortunate man's ankles. The blade cleaved the packer's feet from his legs through the shin bones. The bald, tattooed man roared in horror, hitting the ground with a thud, blood spurting from his stumps. Maldrim raised his cumbersome weapon, and, bringing it down firmly, he exposed the ribcage of another attacker. The brute's blood sprayed his face. Then, twirling left, then right, Maldrim clumsily dodged and defended against a barrage of thrusts. Before he could dart away, however, his hands felt the stinging sensation of a thick iron chain whipping his wrists and wrapping itself around. With a powerful tug, Maldrim lost his balance. Dragged off his feet, he was sent flying headfirst into an adjacent concrete pillar. Maldrim's eyes fluttered open after his head bounced off the hard stone. He was concussed, but with every ounce of strength he pushed himself from the pillar. He swung his hand and sword free and loose of the chain, and, in distraught panic, he cut through the links in a shower of sparks. Moldream, with renewed vigor, roared defiantly. Silver energy rolled across the dark two-hander. His sword, erupting into life, cracked the airwaves with raw resonance. Raising the blade above his head, Moldream brought it down on the skull of a man with a satisfying blow. The blade did not stop there. It sliced through the rest of the man's torso just as easily in a vertical line, only stopping once it had struck the tiles with a resonating clang. The remaining members of the gang continued their relentless assault with renewed bloodlust. Flurries of knives attempted to gut Moldream as he dodged and parried. Going in circles, he flung himself from pillar to pillar, leading them away from the priestess. Suddenly, his foot met the intestines of one of the slain men, and just before he could catch his footing, he slipped in a thick, congealing puddle of blood. Moldream fell, cracking his chin on the stone. The pack piled on top of the fallen tribal, overpowering him by sheer weight of numbers, pinning him down. "We're going to enjoy gutting you, fucker," one man shouted, his knife thrusting between the tribal's ribs. Moldream's eyes widened. He thought of Angelite above all else. Without him to escort her, the priestess would not make it home. He had to get her there. Suddenly, the dark blade chimed like a large choir bell and reverberated throughout the building. Moldream blinked and found himself, unexpectedly, trapped in another vision, beside the same sea as before. He found his hand in the exact same place as before, on the hilt of the sword. And that was not all. He also felt the leather glove of the stranger flinch. Moldream looked up, his gaze fixated on the cloaked woman that once possessed the two-hander. The stranger stood before him, her facial features still shrouded by her drooping hood. For a second time, the face beneath the darkness of the hood flinched. It was then she gasped for a second time, as if she had remembered him from before. "Retrienaman!" she screamed. The blade's hilt thrummed to the power word, his vision swallowed by a blinding light. The sword activated instantly on command. As bright as day, an explosion of silver energy rocked the building's foundations. The remaining men atop him were viciously flung into the walls and pillars with a thunderous boom. The mystical blast left nothing but entrails, disintegrated torsos, and blood smeared on stone. "Looks like it's my turn now, bastard," the bearded pack leader roared. This man was far taller and muscular than the others. "I'll put an end to your fucking sorcery." The tribal tried to stand to meet this new threat, but his knees buckled, and he fell back down to the floor. Blood gushed from the many horrendous stab wounds on his body. Moldream began to lose consciousness, and his body stiffened. He was in shock, gasping desperately for air, trying to fight his own blood drowning him. All he could do was gargle helplessly. "Not so hard now, are you?" the pack leader scoffed. "That weapon's mine now." Moldream's pupils dilated. He struggled to calm his heartbeat, spraying his life away on the cold stone. "Angel." "Angels? There aren't any angels where you'll be going, shithead," the brute laughed wickedly. "You're going straight to hell, you piece of shit." "He's not going anywhere," Angelite shrieked. "But you will be." The big man halted in his tread and turned to face the unexpected woman. "What's this?" he snorted, glaring at her. "What's a little slut like you going to do, huh? But damn, you'd look great with all that shit ripped off." The man paused and winced, and his jaw dropped as he took note of her richly decorated attire. He squinted at the flaming torch she held and eyed it in fear. It was one of his own men's fallen torches. "Well, shoot my bloody ballsack," he growled. "You're one of those fucking witches." Angelite said nothing. Instead, she raised her free hand, focusing on the embers. Her eyes reflected the fiery glow. "You're not killing him," she roared. "And I'm not a slut or a witch." Twirling her fingers around the naked flame, the primal energy flowed and danced with every passing action of her index finger. Power filled her echoing chant, and her eyes shined with a violet hue, a flicker of galaxies and stars pulsing from within the glow. "You're dead, bitch," the bearded leader bellowed, charging at her in his frenzy, his knives ready for the lunge. With her final word, the priestess thundered, "Flemash!" The swelled energies spill from her hand, her resonance manipulated the hot energy. Within seconds, the flame grew in immense size, and supercombusted before her as she screamed. With no time to react, the helpless man was engulfed in a cacophonous sea of white-hot flames. The blaze shed the man's skin and muscles from his bones in an instant, his bellowing war cry diminishing in the rush and roar of the intense inferno. The stench of overly roasted flesh filled the priestess's nostrils. Adrenaline made her legs quake. Dropping the torch, she dashed to Moldream. "This can't happen again," she cried. Sliding and almost slipping on the blood-sodden ground, her stylish meridian boots kept her firmly upright. Reaching for her stave, the priestess knelt down and held it over the tribal's bleeding body. With no time to spare, she focused her mind on the emerald cores slotted in her staff. Green energies reacted immediately to her quiet chanting, and slowly, Moldream's wound began to close. An hour had passed and the pair lay still in the cold darkness. Moldream breathed quietly, snoring occasionally. Each time he did, Angelite held her hand over his mouth in panic. wake up for spirit's sakes," she said, nudging him constantly. Eventually, her efforts paid off. His eyes fluttered open, and he glanced dozily at her. "You almost died," she whispered, staring at him with a violet glow in her usually green eyes. Moldream moaned briefly, and attempted to get up, but fell onto his knees. "Your wounds are sealed, but I can't replace the loss of blood," she whispered. "Your strength will gradually return, but you need rest." "We don't have time," he groaned, using his blade to force himself to his feet, while Angelite helped him to steady his balance. "We have to move." More chaos echoed down the streets. They were in no position to fight. They had to run. "To their bikes," Moldream said, spluttering. As quick as he could, in his state, he searched the dead men for their keys, and then hobbled outside. "Do you know how to work one of these?" Angelite asked. "Kind of, but I haven't ridden one for years," he said, weakly smiling to show his bloodied teeth. "You'll be okay, just get on." She nervously hopped onto the back seat while Moldream took control. The rusted suspension creaked and heaved. He inserted the keys with a twist and put his foot down on the clutch, starting the bike and revving it hard. "Tighten your arms around my waist," he said, over the noise of the whining engine. The pair sped through the gloomy streets on their rickety ride. The tribal avoided the rubble and potholes the best he could. They rode through several territories, each time dodging gunshots or firebombs. "Faster, faster, faster," the priestess shouted, her arms wrapping around Moldream even tighter. "I'm going as fast as this piece of shit can go, hold on," he bellowed. Suddenly, he screeched the bike's brakes, sending the archaic ride skidding around a dark street corner. Shit. A brick wall was barring their path. From the building above, a shot rang out and a large caliber round punctured the bike's rear wheel tire. The pair jumped off in desperation and backed into a tight corner. Moldream pushed the priestess behind him to shield her. An overpowering searchlight flooded the narrow alley, blinding the pair. Then a man's voice bellowed at them from one of the apartments above. "Is that who I think it is?"